Deputy Secretary General FICCI, who leads FICCI's global outreach as head international, besides handling several other sectors. Mr. Rohit Rao, President INCHAM, and thanks Mr. Rao for collaborating with us. And actually, these are initiatives which we must do more often in future. Mr. Shivam Puri, CEO, Cipla Health. Dr. Harinder Sidhu, Vice President Development, Apollo Hospitals, and Dr. Henry Ribaza, uh, and Mr. Vikas Malhotra. Sorry, last but not the least, Mr. Cedros Stapleton, Director, Lima Chamber of Commerce. And I hope Ambassador Castaneda is also there, so welcome you all. To begin the proceedings, let me invite Mr. Manish Singhal, Deputy Secretary General FICCI, for his opening remarks. Over to you, Mr. Singhal.
Okay, thank you, Gajen. I would suggest can ourselves, and
Yes.
we just unmute ourselves when we need to speak. Formally, good evening, ladies and gentlemen in India. Good morning, everyone in Peru and possibly other locations in Latin America. Ambassador Suvaraidu, Mr. Nagi Reddy, Director, Ministry of Commerce, Ambassador Castaneda, Mr. Stapleton, Director, Lima Chambers, Mr. Malhotra, Metro Corporation, Mr. Rao, President INCHAM Peru, Mr. Puri, CEO of Cipla Health, Mr. Panigrahi, Director Public Policy, Cipla Health again, Dr. Sidhu from Apollo Hospitals Group, and Mr. Rabeza, a health consultant with us today. Officials, other industry representatives, and friends from the media. Before we formally start our proceedings today, I think we must acknowledge our sincere gratitude to all the frontline coronavirus warriors who have done commendable work all these months in strengthening our fight against COVID. And of course, that's true for both Peru and India, and of course, around the world. On behalf of FICCI, the Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry, we find it a privilege and honor to welcome Mr. Subaraidu, Indian Ambassador to Peru and Bolivia, Mr. Nagi Reddy, Director LAC in Ministry of Commerce at New Delhi, and esteemed speakers from Peru and India. We are here today to discuss a very apt subject, not only concerning India and Peru, but really the synergies in healthcare sector. We in fact had a similar session with US yesterday with our Consul General in Atlanta, and there we went a step further and also focused specifically on digital health. And again, we had representatives from healthcare organizations like Apollo Hospital. When we speak of Peru, we are speaking of Pacific Alliance on the whole, as the title of the seminar says. Why Pacific Alliance? Just as a brief, Pacific Alliance is a trading bloc formed by Chile, Colombia, Mexico, and Peru. India is an observer in the grouping. Collectively, these four countries represent, in a way, the 8th largest economy of the world. They represent 37% of LAC region's GDP and 52% of its trade. So just these four countries are so enormous in their economic activity. The alliance also attracts around 45% of Latin American FDI. So it's four countries on one side, and I think the balance 29 Latin American countries on the other side. The grouping has to be seen not in context of their individual populations, but collectively, this grouping offers you a good market size of 120 million population, which it supports. And of course, these four countries have numerous amount of FTAs, including, of course, the USMCA, where the Mexicans have a partnership with US and Canada. So now you can imagine that any business activity, especially investments into that region, could give huge amount of access to Indian companies there. Likewise, companies from the region have access to a much, much bigger market by population in India, and of course, in terms of GDP itself. I would like to start the session by briefly sharing that Namaskar Pacific Alliance is one of our flagship initiatives. I was just sharing with Ambassador that we've been organizing this for the last 10, 12 years in Africa. And now we've expanded this Namaskar brand of initiatives to Latin America and also the Eurasian region. Now, Pacific Alliance, as we mentioned, has a lot of scope. So our initial thought was to do some virtual exhibitions, which we will do as we are just planning it out. But we thought that as a run-up to the final exhibition with the Pacific Alliance grouping, we would do these outreach programs to start generating knowledge and interest among the Indian and the Pacific Alliance industry. The first webinar in the series of Namaskar Pacific Alliance was with Colombia, and it was in view of the remarkable transformation and progress that country has made. There are a huge amount of Indian investments there, especially in the area of engineering and automotive. The second roundtable, of course, today is Peru, and we are discussing healthcare and specifically the pharma sector. Our bilateral trade has been increasing and is around $3 billion today. And when I say increasing, it's an impressive growth rate of over 17% over the last 5 years. Yet, India remains seventh largest global trading partner of Peru, and which throws an opportunity for us. Similarly, Peru is the fourth largest partner for India in the Latin American region. Peru is also one of the few economies in the region with whom we are looking at a preferential trade agreement. Probably Mr. Nagi Reddy will talk more about it. And investment relations with all the Pacific Alliance countries have been excellent, as all Indian companies find them a very, very comfortable, easy, and welcoming place to do business with. Add to it our preferential trade agreement and their FTAs with other countries. This offers a huge partnership potential. Healthcare and pharma, we all are aware, has been a priority for India. And in some way, India has helped the global healthcare industry to reduce its costs significantly. When it comes to only the pharma sector out of it, we export to Peru somewhere near 50 to 51 million dollars only, I would say currently. You know that 30% of the bulk drugs US imports are from India. And obviously that's benefiting their pharma sector. And with that, they're able to reduce their overall healthcare costs. Similarly, there's been marginal increase all these years, except that last year we had a very impressive growth of almost, I would say 50, 60% to about $85 million. But $85 million or $100 million still does not probably talk of the potential, especially when we talk of the onward FTAs which Peru has with other countries. So hence, we thought of having this outreach program to give some idea as to how we can focus on affordable pharmaceuticals and better healthcare infrastructure for people of Peru and Pacific Alliance in general. Of late, there has been an increasing push towards scaling and expanding cooperation in R&D, healthcare, and innovation in this sector across the globe. India is not left behind either, again, because India can offer very competitive environment for doing R&D and innovation in the sector and further reducing healthcare costs. With this backdrop, I would just like to leave all of you with a proposed approach we could take to enhance our trade in pharma and healthcare sector. One is, if recognition of Indian pharmacopoeia could take place by Peru, that would increase access to our pharma sector into Peru and hence benefit the healthcare costs there. Similarly, hassle-free and a bit more prompt registration procedure for Indian pharma products would have the similar benefits for the Peruvian people. Another area of cooperation could be, like I mentioned, in the area of innovation. And one of the biggest innovations which COVID has accelerated is in the area of telemedicine. Today, Indian hospitals feel that, especially when you are looking at internationally, but even nationally, probably 50 to 75% of pre-operative and post-operative visits can be avoided through telemedicine, which would not only mean a huge convenience to the patient, but also reducing the overall healthcare costs. Partnerships with Indian medical universities, another way to start this cooperation at a very early stage, of our work together. With these thoughts, I would now leave to the experts who would follow in and also look at how our ambassador views this cooperation, and we would request him to share his vision as we go forward. Thank you once again. We hope you all have a very good session today.
Thank you, Manishji. Thanks for also giving us some sort of a roadmap and some very good suggestions on improving cooperation in the sector. Now, I would like to invite Ambassador Subaraidu, our ambassador to Peru. Ambassador Subaraidu joined IFS, Indian Foreign Service, in 1994, and he is a very seasoned diplomat and has served in key positions, including postings in Perth, Jakarta, Warsaw, Rome, and Dhaka. Over to you, Ambassador.
Thank you, Gajendra. And also thanks to Mr. Manish Singhal, Deputy Secretary General of FICCI, for those introductory remarks. Warm greetings to all of you who joined this online session on India-Peru synergies in healthcare sector. We have participants from both Peru and India. So I'll try to present the scenario as well as in Peru, and then see how the synergies can be put together. The unprecedented pandemic has left no scope to relax, but to fully focus on removing the gap, augmenting health facilities. In January, President of Peru, Mr. Martin Vizcarra, called 2020 the year of universalization of health. The aim is to achieve universal access to health in the country. Just give me a second. For us in India, health for all through universal health coverage remains a central objective. We are working relentlessly towards this objective. Our Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi launched Ayushman Bharat, which is evolving into the largest government-funded health protection scheme in the world. From the compulsions of current health emergency or national objectives and capacities of our two countries, it is highly relevant to talk about synergies in the health sector. My compliments to FICCI and INCHAM for selecting this sector. The pandemic has indeed highlighted the strengths of India's health capacities, including those in pharmaceuticals, basic research, vaccines, diagnostics, devices, telemedicine, hospital administration, healthcare supplies, and related expertise. The presence of thousands of pharma companies with a strong network of globally certified manufacturing facilities has created in India intensive competition, given adequate experience, and made operations efficient and competitive. High quality, best cost of production, innovative scientific manpower, technology, clinical research capabilities, and wide variety of experience in manufacturing as per global standards enable the Indian pharma to supply its products to over 180 countries. Digital technology and artificial intelligence have become game changers in healthcare sector. For example, indigenously developed digital tools such as Arogya Setu app are being widely used to predict emerging hotspots in India. In the span of a few months, India became a personal protection equipment kit manufacturing hub. Indian vaccine manufacturers are likely to be producers of choice as and when a vaccine for COVID-19 emerges. Clinical management guidance and expertise has been provided through the virtual mode to hospitals and doctors within and outside India. Health remains a top priority for the government of Peru. Its pharmaceutical market is growing. Peru's import in 2019 have increased by 9.6% to $963 million from $878 million in 2018. Let me now outline the status of current cooperation between India and Peru. India remains an important partner of Peru in pharma segment. We are among the suppliers of 8 of the top 10 pharma products Peru imported last year. India was the 5th largest supplier with $72.6 million worth of supplies, registering an increase of 27% in 2019 over 2018. India's market share has increased to 7.5% in 2019 from 6.5% in 2018. It is encouraging to note that India was the only country among top pharma suppliers to Peru to have registered 86% growth between 2017 and 2019. However, India's pharma exports to Peru have declined this year, probably due to supply or logistic reasons or change in demand pattern. I'm sure the experts and industry players will look into this trend and take corrective steps. As regards medical devices, India has been exporting orthopedic appliances, catheters, medical instruments, and appliances. India's exports in the medical devices segment were at $5.7 million in 2019. Let me now turn to opportunities for partnership. 3 product lines at 8-digit level, namely medications including insulin, penicillin in capsules or injections form, and medical products containing vitamins, present potential opportunity for Indian suppliers in the Peruvian market, since these 3 items entered the top 10 items of import in Peru during March to May 2020. In view of COVID-19 outbreak, Government of Peru announced zero tariffs on import of 32 pharma products. This got further extended until mid-September, coinciding with the extension of health emergency in the country. Over $350 million medical devices segment in Peru presents opportunities for Indian suppliers as Peru is looking for medical and diagnostic products. This could go beyond X-ray tubes, ultrasonic scanning apparatus, computer tomography apparatus, etc. I wish to suggest to look at opportunities that traditional systems of medicine, immunity products, and herbal medicines of India offer as they emerge as viable options for public health care. What needs to be done to enter partnership with Peru? Product registration, as mentioned earlier, with Directorate General of Medicines, Supplies and Drugs, DHMID, under Ministry of Health, Government of Peru is essential, as the process, including documentation and other compliances, involve 12 to 18 months or more. In some cases, it is advisable to contact local laboratories or distributors sufficiently in advance to initiate the process of drug registration. On 13th July, DHMID has published a list of Peruvian pharmaceutical entities who have been authorized to import specified pharmaceutical products related to COVID-19 from certain sources. We are glad to note that Indian firms are mentioned for sourcing of 74 products such as FICCI, hydroxychloroquine, paracetamol, azithromycin, etc. India represents a reliable source of medicine, medical components, and critical healthcare technologies. Indian healthcare sector offers affordable quality products and services. India can be a partner of Peru in addressing shortages in essential medicines, fulfilling the requirement of critical medical devices in hospitals or in strengthening primary healthcare centers. Indian industry could also look at forging joint venture partnerships for local value addition and production. This could be very relevant from the context of our business interaction with the Pacific Alliance. I invite stakeholders on both sides to join hands and realize the huge potential for business ties in the healthcare sector at this crucial juncture. President of INCHAM, Mr. Rohit Rao himself is a medical industrialist, and Ambassador Jorge Castaneda is now today moderating the actual part of the discussions, and with his experience and familiarity with India can help us to bring together and to understand the synergies and redirect them for the mutual benefit. Let me conclude by saying that our relations have been growing. They have assumed a greater dimension in recent years, and we have emerged as one of the leading partners of Peru. There are complementarities and there are sectors which offer immense potential, and healthcare is one of them. So I would like to invite the stakeholders, industry specialists from both the countries, leaders, to see the potential and try and take forward this collaboration. I'd like to thank FICCI and also INCHAM for giving this opportunity. Thank you.
Thanks, Ambassador Subar. I think it has been really a good detailed analysis on. Am I audible? Yeah. So thanks, Ambassador, for giving us a detailed analysis. In fact, also giving out details on processes, what are the incentives being offered, and the zero tariff line on those 32 items which you mentioned. I believe Indian industry or Indian pharma industry would surely take a note of it and would pursue our cooperation and collaboration in that regard. Now we have with us, we will be inviting Mr. Nagi Reddy, Director in Ministry of Commerce. He's been handling Latin America affairs in Ministry of Commerce for several years, and he's the key nodal official involved in policy making. And more importantly, he also handles pharmaceuticals and trade agreements in the Ministry of Commerce. So we could not have a better official for this interaction. So may I now invite Mr. Nagi Reddy.
Thank you, Mr. Gajendra. Am I audible?
Yeah, please. Yes, you are.
To all the participants who have joined this forum from India, and good morning to all the participants who have joined this forum from Peru. I would firstly thank FICCI for giving me this opportunity to participate in this forum, which is discussing the synergies on health sector. And I must thank our ambassador, Mr. Subba Raidu, who has given a panoramic view of the prowess of Indian pharma sector, the opportunities that both India and Peru can look forward to forge a strong relationship, and also the opportunities that have emerged in this COVID scenario. Mr. Manish Singhal has also brought out some of the market access issues which the products of Indian origin face, especially in the pharmaceutical field of Peru. And he has also highlighted the potentials that the Pacific Alliance countries offer and why there should be a synergy between the Pacific Alliance and India, and definitely between Peru and India, which have been witnessing a strong and a positive impetus in the increase in the bilateral trade relations. Since the healthcare sector is very closely knitted to the pharmaceutical sector, I would like to emphasize some of the salient features of the pharma sector, the relations that both the countries can forge, the synergies that can be developed at B2B, at G2G, and even at G2B levels. To start with, I would like to share with this forum that Indian pharma is a highly knowledge-based industry. It plays an important role in the Indian economy. It happens to be one of our top exporting sectors that has been continuously giving a positive growth rate since the last decade. If you take the performance of Indian pharmaceutical in exports, during 2019-20, we have a record export figure of 20.58 billion. And out of this 20.58 billion, we have exported 55% of it to the stringent regulated markets like US, European Union, Australia, Russia, and so on and so forth. We have been witnessing a positive growth rate despite the impact of COVID in the months of February and March. We are all aware that there were problems in India due to the lockdown, and pharmaceutical industries also had problems in the disruptions of supply chains, unavailability of the logistics, problems in clearance of the documents. Yet, we have registered 7.5% growth in 2019-20. And even in the year 2020-21, we are still growing strong with a growth rate of 9% plus in our pharmaceutical exports. Why India should be keenly taken up by Peru and other Pacific Alliance countries in the pharmaceutical sector? India is the fourth largest producer of formulations by volume and 10th largest by value. If you only take the generic formulations, India is the largest manufacturer of generic formulations and also an exporter. We have 8 out of top 20 global generic companies in India. So that means close to 50% of the global generic companies are in India. We have close to 700 US FDA approved plants. That is the largest number of US FDA plants outside USA. We have more than 450 EU approved plants. Overall, we have close to 4,500 WHO GMP approved plants. India is a proven source of high standard generics, antiviral drugs, antibiotics, vitamins, hormones, and there is another icing on the cake. India is also having a share of more than 65% in the WHO scheduled vaccines production. We supply lot number of DPT vaccines, BCG vaccines to the various countries which are procured by the WHO. What is the strength of our pharma industry? At present, it is valued at around 42 billion, and it is estimated to grow to a figure of close to 90 to 100 billion by the year 2025, for which the pharma industry, the government are putting a lot of strenuous efforts to reach that aspirational target. Since we are in the midst of this COVID pandemic, it would not be out of place to mention that India took care of not only its medical requirements, but also has supplied hydroxychloroquine to more than 111 countries who were in dire need of that drug. Incidentally, even Peru has received hydroxychloroquine supply, both in the form of medical assistance and also as a commercial supply. Apart from this, we have been exporting paracetamol, azithromycin, as was mentioned by our ambassador, and more than 35 countries have benefited from that. In addition to these products, the Indian pharma manufacturers have exported essential drugs used in the treatment of COVID to most of the countries in the world, and this has proven why India is fondly known as the global pharmacy of the world. So India has lived up to the epithet that it is the global pharmacy of the world. We are also currently working on the vaccine production for COVID-19. You are already aware that a couple of Indian companies are in the advanced stage of completing the human trials. And this performance of India has generated a lot of goodwill in the international market and also has thrown up a lot of opportunities in the pharmaceutical sector. As I mentioned, the R&D environment coupled with the cost effective production has made India a hub of production of pharmaceuticals. And if you see the investment related data, $16.5 billion of investment has flown into drugs and pharmaceuticals during 2000 and 2020. 100% FDI is allowed in the pharmaceutical sector in India. The government departments which deal with pharmaceuticals, be it the Department of Pharmaceuticals or the Health Ministry, and also the Department for Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade, have also come up with a lot of schemes to encourage domestic production of APIs, key starting materials, and also enable technology upgradation and to take on the much required R&D activities. Recently, the Department of Pharmaceuticals has announced a scheme with an outlay of 13,400 crores spanned over a period of 5 years for encouraging the domestic production of APIs and KSMs in India. Having talked about the strengths of Indian pharma sector, I must also say that the Indian pharma sector is having a lot of import dependence on APIs and KSMs. Now, this is what Peru and other Pacific Alliance countries can look forward to for a partnership. The synergies that we are talking of definitely would require partnerships between the Peruvian pharma sector and the Indian pharma sector, where they can take benefit of the advancements they have made in the production of APIs and KSMs, as well as specialty drugs. Coming to the potentials between Peru and India, it has already been pointed out by the previous speakers that the pharmaceutical exports to Peru are lesser than what actually Peru can benefit out of it. Peru imports around 83 to 85 million of Indian pharmaceuticals. Its total imports are close to 1 billion. Now, if the developed nations are taking advantage of importing the high standard generics from India and benefiting in their public health programs, why should not the Pacific Alliance countries? In fact, it would not be out of place to mention that Indian pharma sector has come to the rescue of the African nations in fighting various threatening diseases like AIDS because of the antiviral drugs, the retroviral drugs that are produced in India, which are cost effective. Millions of lives have been saved. Millions of lives have been saved in who are suffering from cancer. So we need to work on the synergies where the advancements made by India in producing these drugs, the advancements made by the Pacific Alliance countries can be clubbed to even reach greater heights. If we talk about the issue of the market access, we are all aware that tariffs do not play a major role in deciding the enhancement of trade. What we need is regulatory cooperation. We need a mechanism for facilitating fast track approvals for giving market access, and to not waste further time. If a drug has already been approved in a highly regulated market, then the same dossiers can be examined by the regulators and suo motu approvals can be attempted to be given. In this regard, I would like to share with the forum that from the Indian side, we had made an attempt to get a product annex on pharmaceuticals included in the ongoing trade agreement negotiations. So in that product annex, the Indian side has proposed that Peru may recognize Indian pharmacopoeia because that will save the labeling costs, and not compromising on the quality, Peru can take further advantage on the cost cuttings. Second, both countries should work for regulatory cooperation and work out on an MRA between the regulators so that there can be conformity, mutual acceptance of conformity assessment, mutual acceptance of certifications given for WHO GMP plants. So the more you improve the ease in doing the business in pharma by reducing the regulatory barriers, it would be a win-win situation for both the countries and also benefit the populations at large. Now, if you see the COVID scenario, this has thrown open so many new opportunities. We have Indian companies who have got voluntary licenses for manufacture of remdesivir, which is now being popularly talked of as a protocol for curing COVID cases, which are quite serious. Then we have favipiravir. We have several other antiviral drugs which are in the requirement for treatment of COVID. So these products also throw an opportunity for collaborations and for chalking out procurement deals. The synergy between India and Peru in healthcare sector pertaining to pharma can also be improved if Indian pharma companies are given a chance to participate in the public procurement done by Peru for healthcare drugs. We already have executed an MOU in the case of Chile between the STC India Limited and the Senabast of Chile, where the MOU talks about facilitating the sourcing of high standard generics from India to Chile. Chile is part of the Pacific Alliance. So Peru can also perhaps examine such proposals which will facilitate G2G engagement as well in the supply of high standard generics. In conclusion of my views, I will definitely like to highlight the traditional medicine. We have always been working out how there can be a cooperation built between Peru and India in the exchange of knowledge on traditional medicine. In this regard, India in 2017 has introduced regulations pertaining to phytopharmaceuticals in the Drugs and Cosmetics Act. We already have nutraceuticals. So if Ayush products can be traded between the countries, not as nutrients, but as an established system of medicine, this will definitely build a good platform for the traditional medicine and also provide alternative methods. Both these countries have rich sources of genetic varieties, so they can definitely work on building synergies in biotechnology, biologicals, and also because these are the requirements of the current times as well as the times to come in future. So I thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Nagireddy, for not only giving us the overall prowess of Indian pharma industry, but also specifying very specific suggestions on MRA, public procurement, and traditional medicines. So I think now we are there for the industry panel. Actually, the players who would be implementing these suggestions on the ground. So over to you, Mr. Rohit Rao. Now you take it forward the panel. Yeah. And my one more request is that any question during this period you may just pose it, and we will try to take up as many questions as possible during Q&A.
Okay. Hello, good evening. Buenos días, señores in Peru. Thank you very much, Indian specialists and panelists and the ambassador to be part of this important meeting. I'd like to maybe inform people here in Spanish about the Indian panelists and in English of the Peruvian panelists who are here. Okay, so I think it'll be easy because the Indians know who's Cipla, who's Apollo, so no need much to inform. So let me go straight down to Dr. Harindra Sidhu. Buenos días, señores. Aquí voy a informar los panelistas importantes que hay aquí de la India. Empezamos con el Apollo Hospital, que es uno de los cadena hospital más grandes de la India. No solamente el más grande, el más ético que hay en la India, que tiene muchos sistemas que funcionan y su tecnología y su día a día nos ayuda muchísimo para trabajar. Y el señor vicepresidente, señor Harindra Sidhu, va a dar su información ahora para que podamos echar un vistazo y ver cómo podemos juntar sinergias entre los dos hospitales, tanto peruanos como de la India. Okay, Mr. Harindra Singh, you are ahead. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Good morning to our ambassador and the health experts in Peru, and good evening to all my colleagues here in India. It's a great opportunity for me to represent Apollo Hospitals Group at this esteemed forum. And I'm very pleased that I have also been invited because so far we know India and Peru have enjoyed great collaborations in healthcare within the pharmaceutical sectors. And we have heard from our ambassador, from the joints, the Mr. Nagireddy and the others about the potential in the pharmaceutical sector. I would like to talk about the synergies possible in the healthcare delivery sector from the hospital's perspective. Can we go to the next slide, please? Yeah. So broadly, how we look at Indian healthcare, we define it as the expertise and why India is now the powerhouse of healthcare for the world. We look at it, we put it as 5 ways. One is affordable, which has been highlighted in the forum earlier in the terms of medicines, which form a very important part of the healthcare delivery as well. But other than the medicines, the other components which go into healthcare delivery, including the professionals who get involved and the infrastructure that is required, Indian healthcare is very affordable. If I have to just give an example, a heart surgery in somewhere in US would cost around 120,000 US dollars. In India, it is done at as low as $5,000. So it is very, very affordable. Then I will come to the part of accredited. Just like it was highlighted, India has one of the largest number of FDA approved plants outside of the US. Similarly, India has very large number of JCI accredited hospitals. JCI is an international body that accredits hospitals, with India having 35 hospitals who are of those standards. It's the gold standard for hospitals. The healthcare services here are very accessible. There's no waiting period here in India. You don't have to book an appointment weeks or months in advance. You come here and you get immediate access to the health services you need. Very advanced with the latest technology. Like Apollo Hospitals now has proton therapy for cancer treatment, something which is actually not available in countries, if I have to share with you, like Australia, New Zealand, and many other developed countries of the world. So the latest technology is available in India. And assisted is the Indian culture of warmth and tender loving care for our guests.
Harinder, we are losing you. I think something wrong with the
Yeah,
internet.
I think your signal is weak. If you can switch off your video, maybe it might be better.
Sorry. There's some with the slide. I think, can you put the name, please? Okay. Can you hear me? If we come to the slides, I can still continue.
better.
Someone help to change the slide, Gajendra?
Yeah, I think it's now the Apollo group slide. So you want to change the next one?
Group slide, I can see it on my. Yeah, it's not fine. So just the group, it is the largest healthcare group, the oldest and the more trusted hospital group. We have 73 hospitals with about 10,000 beds, 100 care and diagnostic centers. We're not a manufacturer of pharmaceuticals, but we're into the retail pharmacy, and we have about 3,700 retail stores. We see patients from more than 120 countries. We've done 165,000 heart surgeries. We mentioned about the tele services earlier. We have about 115 telemedicine units across 20 countries, which I would say were not very optimally utilized before COVID, but now they are being used very well. We are also into academics with institutes and research, and we have a medical school of our own as well. Can we go to the next slide? Yeah. See, our focus in Apollo hospitals is primarily towards treatment of the non-communicable diseases or the lifestyle diseases, as they are called, including heart care, orthopedics, neurosciences, emergency medicine. We have very advanced center for cancer care.
JJ, Vipulji, I'm fine. Got that message from MEA. I just forwarded it to you on WhatsApp. They're saying that हम टर्कमेनिस्तान को आपको कुछ रेमडेसिविर भेजना था और उसमें कुछ प्रॉब्लम हो रही है. But there is no.
Yeah. Okay, now go ahead, Harinder, please.
Yeah. So, like I said, and we have very advanced center for cancer care. And we are actually one of the largest center for organ transplant. We do liver transplant, kidney transplant, even heart and lung transplants. Can we go to the next? Yeah, so I think where we can see a similarity and how Peru and India can work together, and why I brought up the issue of non-communicable diseases. If you look at the pattern of the disease burden on the two countries, you'll see a very similar pattern with cardiovascular diseases being the highest cause of mortality. In India, we suffer from this, and even Peru has similar challenges. Cancer is big, respiratory diseases, diabetes. If you look at the Peru numbers, 69% of the deaths are estimated due to NCDs, whereas the number in India is 63. So we have similar challenges in two countries. Fortunately, India has been able to come up with very good healthcare models and solutions, which are making it not only high quality with good outcomes, but more importantly, keeping it very affordable, which is important for countries like us, which do not have let's say, we don't have the luxury or the resources to go with very high costs. So we look at areas where we can work together and see, we can exchange scientific knowledge and see how models can be replicated in each of our countries. Next slide, please. I'm just putting out some of the things which Apollo Group has been doing with its partner countries in many parts of the world. We have not worked much with the Latin American countries, but we have worked a lot in our neighborhood, in Southeast Asian region, SAARC region, African continent, Middle East, CIS region, where I'm just sharing the few things which we are doing, and we can look at what may work between India and Peru. One is obviously the patients coming to us in India for their treatment, to get the treatment at a very low cost and making sure the outcomes are good. For Peru, it may not be the best model given the distance, but there could always be areas which we can look at. Doctors from India, especially at Apollo Group, we do travel across the world for conferences, scientific lectures, to share the advances in medical sciences which we are seeing and how we are implementing those in India. We do a lot of work in project management and consulting assignments where we help hospitals and medical centers to upgrade their facilities, to help them set up processes and protocols which are cost efficient, reduce wastage, and bring more efficiency in the system to ensure the services provided with high standards and minimal wastage. Next slide, please. So other thing we do with a lot of other African and other nations is helping them in training. We have actually worked with the Government of India program with the Ministry of External Affairs, where we have trained about 200 doctors, nurses, and paramedical staff at Apollo hospitals in India, where we did not charge any training fee for them, and the Ministry of External Affairs actually paid the cost for their travel and accommodation of India. We can look at such models between India and Peru for clinical exchange, for doctors, nurses, and other health professionals to visit each other and learn from each other. The idea about the telehealth was mentioned earlier in the session, where we use telemedicine. In fact, I would like to share, while telemedicine helps in consultations and having a virtual connect with the doctor, there are models where you can actually manage critical services like ICU care and emergency services using this telemedicine technology and platforms. So these are just a few ideas which I brought to the table, and I'll be very happy to hear from the consultants and the health experts in Peru to guide us on see how we can find areas of synergy and make sure this collaboration could be worked out in interest for both these countries. I'll also look forward and to the guidance from our ambassador, given his knowledge of the Indian healthcare expertise and what Apollo can offer, and see how we can work with the hospitals or healthcare services partners in Peru. Once again, thank you very much. And I look forward to hearing from the other speakers, specifically in the pharmaceutical sector. And if there are very questions in the area of healthcare service delivery, I'll be very happy to take them. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sidhu. It was a fantastic and quick, clear information on Apollo hospitals. Yes. Now, I'd like to present Dr. Henry Ribasa. Dr. Henry Ribasa has been director of all the northern part of hospitals. Can other people please shut off your mic if you don't mind? Yeah, okay. So Dr. Henry Ribasa is one of the important person in the public health sector, as well as the creation of different hospitals. He was 3 years back the head of the local FDA called the Khemi, where he has done a lot of different and quick registration process. And he's today is one of the leading person in COVID for Peru. He was all around Peru and generating different type of hospitals. He was also a vice minister of health last year for some time. And he has a very clear idea and vision that the private sector is very important for the growth of the hospitals and public health in Perú. Doctor Rabasa, usted, por favor, adelante.
Días, primero para agradecer la oportunidad que nos dan para poder explicar lo que tenemos como país, las necesidades que este país puede ofrecer, y muy agradecido de antemano al escucharlos a ustedes. Veo las enormes posibilidades de cooperación y de intercambio, de desarrollo entre su país, la India, y nuestro país.
All right, Doctor. He is very happy to be here, and he can see after what Mr. Sidhu has informed, how things can be well done with both the countries. Yeah, adelante, Doctor.
En realidad, cuando acaba el último expositor, he quedado sorprendido en ese parecido del escenario epidemiológico que tiene la India con el país. Y no solo el parecido epidemiológico, sino también las oportunidades de cooperación que nos dan. Eso hace en realidad plantear hoy día en esta exposición quizás aquellas cosas que podrían ser un poco diferentes a ustedes para encontrar a través de esta exposición algún nicho de cooperación. En realidad lo que ustedes ofrecen son lo que estamos necesitando, y en ese sentido voy a hacer una exposición que sea explicativa para poder finalmente, ojalá que podamos concretar. Ustedes conocen que el gobierno del presidente Vizcarra solo le queda un año. En junio ya hay cambio de gobierno en el país, pero entramos a un año histórico para el país. Son 200 años de independencia, y eso, como verán, va a generar una serie de reformas en el Estado y sobre todo en el campo de la salud, que es una gran oportunidad, por lo tanto, de este año, mirar cómo juntos podríamos estar trabajando entre Perú y la India. Podría traducir.
He's very happy and to see the synergies you can have from both the sides, especially after what Dr. Sidhu has explained. The similarity of the epidemiology in both sectors will help a lot to understand each other. So here he wants to start his presentation now. Please go ahead. Dale.
Ok, entonces vamos a explicar. Primero decirle pues que nuestra población, el país, la lámina siguiente, por favor. En nuestro país nosotros tenemos una población que ha ido creciendo. Hoy día somos cerca de 33 millones de personas. La composición de la demografía en nuestro país nos dice de que la población entre 15 ya 24 años y la población entre 25 a 59 años todavía sigue.
Gaurav, can you please get the next slide?
Ok. Entonces, ustedes pueden ver que la población en azul, entre 15 y 24 años, y la población entre 25 a 59 años, es decir, la población económicamente activa, es la mayor cantidad de población. Sin embargo, ustedes también pueden ver, por eso es que tenemos un escenario epidemiológico parecido a ustedes, en donde cada vez vemos envejecimiento de la población, y también estamos viendo una reducción de los menores de 5 años en la población en general.
Yeah, I mean, the slide is very clear. So you can see the Peru is also very young population, some like India, which, you can have a lot of synergies in future. Yeah, next slide, please, Gaurav.
La siguiente lámina. Por lo tanto, al haber reducido las tasas de nacimiento y las tasas de mortalidad, ustedes pueden apreciar que nuestra población ha aumentado en estos últimos años su esperanza de vida. En 10 años hemos aumentado cerca de 10 años de esperanza de vida. Hoy el promedio de esperanza de vida en nuestro país son entre 75 a 80 años, dependiendo si viven en la zona sierras o que es una zona todavía más pobre que la zona costa, en donde hay mayor desarrollo. El Perú, además, maneja actualmente un per cápita, es decir, una inversión por persona cercana a los $13,500 por persona.
Excelente. Doctor, un favor, cuando usted termine de hablar, ¿no? Apague un ratito su micro y venga el primer micro de nuevo, para no que haya el... ¿no? Okay, so it's better that he shuts the microphone. So we just saw now that the synergies between India and Peru is quite a lot, and we see the life expectancy in Peru is about, since last 10 years it has grown 10 years more. So today we have about 75 years of life expectancy in Peru. Yeah, thank you. Next slide, please. Yeah, doctor, ahora sí.
La mortalidad infantil quizás es el mejor logro que tiene Perú en el ámbito latinoamericano. La reducción de la mortalidad infantil en nuestro país desde hace 20 años, cercana a 50 por cada 1,000 nacidos vivos. Hoy día estamos en un promedio de 7 por cada 1,000 nacidos vivos. Y esto ha sido producto también en donde ustedes, como la India, han participado trayéndonos vacunas. Las vacunas ha sido una importante tecnología que en nuestro país hemos podido coberturar a la mayor cantidad de población. Por eso es que está reconocida por la Organización Mundial de la Salud que el Perú es el país de Latinoamérica que más ha reducido su mortalidad infantil. Sin embargo, la mortalidad neonatal y la mortalidad materna todavía está en alta. En nuestro país se mueren 7 niños por cada, 7 recién nacidos por cada 1,000 nacimientos.
Yeah, doctor. You can see here that Peru has, with the help of India, has done a lot of, the deaths of the newborns have reduced a lot, and thanks to Indian vaccines that have been coming for some time now, helped a lot to Peru. Next slide, please, Gaurav. Ya, doctor, dale.
Eso entenderán que hace que nuestro país tenga todavía un escenario de acumulación. Todavía tenemos problemas producto de la pobreza, como la mortalidad infantil, la desnutrición, la anemia, las enfermedades parasitarias, las enfermedades metaxémicas. Todavía seguimos teniendo en nuestro país malaria, en algunas zonas del país tenemos lepra, en algunas zonas del país tenemos peste bubónica, es decir, en el escenario epidemiológico del país encontramos todas las enfermedades, pero también comienzan a aparecer las enfermedades de un país en desarrollo, como es las enfermedades crónicas degenerativas. Y esto es porque en los últimos 5 años nuestro país ha crecido, ¿no?, su Producto Bruto Interno. Entre el año 2010 hasta el 2014, el crecimiento económico del país ha sido sostenido en un promedio de 5% de crecimiento del PBI. Sin embargo, desde el 2015 a la fecha, por la recesión de la economía internacional, ha disminuido y el último año ni siquiera hemos llegado al 2% del PBI, que ha generado problemas finalmente en la economía y también en la población peruana.
You can see that the GDP has also grown for last 5 years. So there are all types of problematics we have in the country, very similar to what India had. So you have on the lower side, the malaria, and the higher side of all the health problems that we have in the country. Next slide, please, Gaurav.
Entonces, les comentaba que este crecimiento económico que ha sido sostenido, además, como ustedes verán, la última pandemia ha hecho que el país no solo haya bajado este ritmo de crecimiento importante, sino que después nuevamente de 30 años nuestro país tiene algunos indicadores de inflación. Y eso lo que ha generado finalmente es que tengamos algunas, una detención o un obstáculo a haber crecido también en el gasto público en salud en estos últimos 8 años. Nosotros apostábamos para el 2020 por lo menos ya llegar al 4 o al 6% del Producto Bruto Interno, y como pueden ustedes ver en la lámina, a pesar, ¿no?, de lo que se viene gastando en la pandemia, ni siquiera estamos llegando al 3.5%.
Peru still has lots of, although the expenses in health has been growing a lot, but they're still not even spending 3.5% of GDP. So you can see the lot of money being spent, but not in a right way. So I think maybe India can be one of the good partners to help them to have efficient expenses done in the country. Yeah. Doctor, ¿cuántos láminas más falta?
Unas 5 láminas, yo lo apuro, no hay problema. Entonces, le decíamos, ya, next lámina. Entonces, les decía que ha habido crecimiento económico en nuestro país, ¿no? Que ha ido avanzando. La próxima lámina, por favor. Sin embargo, el gasto en bolsillo también de la población ha ido aumentando, ¿no? Y según la última encuesta, ¿no?, el gasto de bolsillo en nuestro país es cercana al 40%, a pesar de la duplicación de presupuesto del gobierno hacia la salud de la población.
Yeah, okay. Next one, please. You can see that not only the expenses the government is spending, also a lot of expenses spent from the private sector from their own pockets. Next one, please, Gaurav. We are running a bit late of time, so we just want to do Dale, doctor. Dale.
Ya, entonces, en nuestro país, para un poco ya terminar, tenemos un sistema de salud muy segmentado, ¿no? Desarticulado con distintos subsectores, tanto del sector público y privado. La siguiente lámina, por favor. En donde que el aseguramiento, la siguiente lámina, next lámina, en donde vemos que el aseguramiento en nuestro país es público y privado, ¿no? Tanto de recursos directos como de recursos indirectos.
Yeah, okay. See, the health sector here is divided into 3 different bodies: the government sector, the social security, the private sector. Next one, please, Gaurav. So this is what the way it is says.
Sí, la siguiente lámina, por favor.
Next one, Gaurav, one after this.
Entonces, ahí ustedes pueden apreciar todos los aumentos importantes que ha habido en consulta, en servicios de rayos X, en servicios de especialistas, en servicios de medicamentos, de exámenes, de control de embarazo, vacunas. Es decir, en conclusión, el sistema de salud del país cada año va creciendo en su financiamiento del Estado y también en el acceso de la población a los servicios públicos del país.
Year by year, you can see that things have been increasing in all expenses in all the sectors, in medicines, in analysis, in doctor consultancy. So this can still, but still a long way to go. Next one, please, Gaurav.
Next lámina. Por lo tanto, en nuestro país tenemos varios desafíos. Si solo invertir en hospitales o fortalecer el primer nivel de atención por la segmentación, por la fragmentación, por el acceso que tiene nuestra población. La siguiente lámina. En ese sentido, next lámina.
Gaurav, next one, please. Ya, doctor, ahí está. Doctor. Doctor, usted está en mute. Anyway.
Hemos planteado en nuestro país, por lo tanto, conformar redes funcionales, pero también fortalecer los 3 niveles de atención. La pandemia nos ha demostrado que no solo tenemos que invertir en el nivel hospitalario, sino que tenemos que invertir en la contención, el segundo nivel de atención y sobre todo en el nivel primario.
Yeah, it's very important to understand that this pandemic has explained us that we need to do a lot of expenses in the first level of attention and also have a quicker services in all the sectors. So there's a lot of chance for the Indian hospitals, Indian health sectors to maybe construct hospitals, construct first line of consulting services, or different type of dispensing of medicines and telemedicines. Next one, please, Gaurav.
Por lo tanto, un poco ya concluyendo esta presentación, actualmente vivimos un progreso, nos faltan recursos humanos, en nuestro país nos faltan cerca de 36 especialistas, tenemos serios problemas de contratación, tenemos serios problemas de infraestructura, ahí debemos ampliar la actual infraestructura y no solo ampliarlo, sino modernizarlo. Tenemos que trabajar en procesos, tenemos que capacitar a nuestro personal de salud. La siguiente lámina.
Next one, please, Gaurav. Ese último, ¿no, doctor? Para que...
Yeah. Entonces, lo que necesitamos en nuestro país es generar todo el tema de una nueva organización de servicios de salud con una característica más universal. La siguiente lámina.
Next one, please, Gaurav. Yeah.
En donde tenemos que construir, por lo tanto, una política en donde tengamos más equipamiento y tecnología sanitaria. Nos falta incrementar nuestro petitorio nacional de medicamentos e insumos médicos. En el país están planificados en mediano plazo construir cerca de 80 hospitales de mediana complejidad, construir 5 hospitales de gran complejidad para Lima, la capital. Cuando hablo de gran complejidad, por lo menos de más de 2,000 camas cada hospital. Y actualmente en nuestro país tenemos un desafío, el tema del oxígeno, el crecimiento todavía en camas de cuidados intensivos, la falta de medicamentos para las unidades de cuidados intensivos, la falta de especialistas para trabajar los cuidados intensivos. Por eso es que yo saludo y veo que las posibilidades que ustedes han planteado para nosotros son en realidad las necesidades que podemos coberturar. He visto que este hospital que ustedes llaman Hospital Apolo nos puede brindar la telemedicina, nos puede servir para capacitar a muchos lugares del país donde no tenemos especialistas a través de la telemedicina, en las UCIs, en los servicios de emergencia y sobre todo también poder tener los medicamentos que hoy día en realidad son difíciles para nuestro país. Es decir, en nuestro país estamos convencidos que tenemos que hacer una nueva reforma, una nueva organización del Sistema Nacional de Salud del país. Sí, creo que con eso podría terminar, Mr. Rao.
Yeah, gracias. You can see that Peru needs today 80 medium-sized hospitals to be constructed, 5 huge hospitals to be constructed, and lot of shortage of oxygen plants, critical hospitalization, medicine. So India has got a great opportunity to do something in Peru on all these sectors. Thank you very much. Gracias, Dr. Revasa. Thank you very much. So we'd like to invite now from Cipla Healthcare, CEO Mr. Shivam Puri, and the Director Public Policy, Mr. Panigrahi. No queremos darle más información de Cipla. Todo el mundo conoce quién es Cipla. Todo el mundo sabe qué es lo que hace Cipla en diferentes áreas. Please go ahead, Mr. Shivam Puri, CEO of Cipla.
Thank you so much. Gaurav, can I have the presentation on, please? Thank you. Good evening, everyone from India, and good morning to all the participants from Peru. These are difficult times for everyone, and I wish you all and family a very good health and safety in difficult times like these. For me personally, it gives me immense pleasure to attend this session on synergies between both the countries that we have been talking about. For me personally, it's been a very enriching experience joining and listening into this illustrious group and hearing your thoughts And the well articulated detailing that all of you did for all of us. I'm here to propose an opportunity to work closely with the government of Peru with an agenda of making a real difference to consumers in the lovely country of Peru. A proposal not to work as a vendor but as a partner, where the focus entirely would be on enriching consumers and helping them tide over these difficult times together. I also learned that both the countries have so much in common through the discussion today in this amazing presentation by Mr. Rebaza, which gives me even more confidence on our ability to make it happen. I was hearing all the challenges that Mr. Rebaza articulated really well. And I believe that, preventive medication also, and I'm not talking curative, but preventive medication can also significantly bring down the burden and costs in times like these. So I'm the CEO for Cipla Health, which is the self-care vertical of Cipla, which essentially deals with wellness and OTC categories. The genesis of this part of Cipla lay in deeply felt need when we realized that we can make such a big difference to improve lives of our consumers every day, and hence essentially was born this wing of preventive medication. And in a time of coronavirus and various other ailments that consumers have been facing of late, we have seen a significant difference that such solutions have been able to make to consumers. This essentially is both medicated and herbal solutions, which hence provide a perfect cover for all consumer needs. And so let me there's a lot has been said about India and its prowess in terms of from the pharmaceutical industry perspective. So I would leave that part out. I'll keep it fairly short in what I speak about. So I will just, can we move to the next slide, please, Gaurav? Thank you. So essentially, the solutions that I was talking about, and you can yourself see how relevant these are in times like these. Solutions around maintaining perfect hand hygiene, solutions around having health supplements and immunity products, which made a big difference in an individual's ability to fight, an external virus. Solutions around pregnancy care for our women consumers, solutions around energy and hydration, solutions around cough and cold, again, a very relevant segment in a time like this, and solution around smoking cessation. As all of us are aware that smokers actually in a time like COVID are much more susceptible to fall prey to COVID than a regular time, because this actual action of bringing the cigarette close to lips itself elevates the probability of someone catching COVID. And also, anyways, it also weakens the immunity system for a consumer. Next slide, please, Gaurav. So let me just quickly run you through these solutions. For example, I was talking about, the transmission of COVID, as all of us are aware about the importance of perfect hand hygiene. People are talking about being hand Nazis, where you just ensure that your hands don't touch your eyes, your nose, your lips. So we have this complete product solution, which we actually got into the market when we saw within India there was a clear need for quality products. So we came up with something which is 72% plus alcohol. And we also then kept talking to our consumers very closely to understand what were the gaps and what were the needs in the market. And actually what you see in front of you is directly what the consumers asked for, be it hand hygiene, be it surface disinfectant, so you don't touch infected surface, be it CHG hand rub product, and various other products as well. And all of these, of course, come in bagged with the perfect quality that the company of Cipla offers. Next slide, please, Gaurav. The other one, again, a big need in times like these is masks. So we have both 3-ply, 5-ply, reusable. So we have again gone to consumers and asked them on what do you seek. So you need one-time protection, you need reusable masks because you need to keep wearing them all the day. As now consumers have started wearing masks and going to work, breathability is a big issue. So we have been working intently on ensuring how do we ensure that the masks are breathable, because that's a big lacuna. You can offer a fantastic mask, but if the breathability is an issue, consumer will not wear it. So, these products are actually born out of whatever we have heard from the consumers in India. Next slide, Gaurav. Because of paucity of time, I'll just quickly rush through these solutions. Again, cough, cold, sore throat. We've again seen that as COVID struck India, there was a clear need for lozenges to calm down, soothe down throats. Expertine gargle, so povidone iodine solution, which is the best product which kills 99.9% viruses in the throat, which prevents the virus from actually going and affecting the body. There are these products which essentially both the perfect price, the perfect quality. We felt there was a big need space in the market, and hence these solutions have been offered to the consumers. Gaurav, next one. This is again a blocked nose, which actually prevents someone from being effective in times like these. So Nasaline is an instant relief from nasal congestion. Again, another offering that we have as a part of the portfolio. Gaurav, you can maybe keep moving, please. Immunity, the best antidote for managing, oneself in a time like this is having a fantastic immunity. Immunity, of course, comes by eating right and ensuring all kinds of nutrition go into the body. But there are times when you just can't take perfect nutrition. If you are busy with work or if you are busy with taking care of your near and dear ones, there would be times when some of the perfect nutrition that the body needs might not get offered, and we have this range of Maxirich, which again is a multivitamin product. There's a complete range which also has herbal products that we would be bringing to the market. This is Nicotex, smoking cessation. So we have been fighting this battle in India for almost 9 to 10 years now. We've been going and convincing smokers to give up smoking. And we feel that in a time like COVID, it becomes even more imperative because, as I said earlier, a smoker is much more susceptible. Nicotex provides, the perfect NRT therapy, which is the nicotine replacement therapy, which allows you, which almost is a friend that you have if you want to quit smoking. We have seen that in times like these, when people are actually stuck in their houses with the families, there's an even more pressure on smoker to quit. And in a very difficult time like this, it is actually becoming very difficult for these consumers, especially smokers. So we've seen a lot of consumers actually approaching us and adapting to this therapy. And I'm also happy to note that we believe that we have actually seen a significant number of smokers actually starting to quit smoking, which is the actual purpose of this solution that we have. Next one, please. Pregnancy care kit. And so we went to all the pregnant consumers and we asked them that when you are in pregnancy, pre-pregnancy, during pregnancy, post-pregnancy, what are the issues that you face? We went to gynecologists, some of the leading gynecologists, and they told us some very obvious ones, right? So a perfect rapid pregnancy detection kit, which is absolutely accurate in terms of its observation. Intimate wash, which is something that consumers pick up in times like this, and various other requirements that a consumer has when they actually get pregnant. The portfolio actually answers all those requirements for consumers. Hydration and energy range, again, this is the one of the biggest products that we have in India, which is the ORS, oral rehydration solution, strictly as recommended, mixed by World Health Organization. And then another drink which actually has vitamin C and fruit juice, which not only provides perfect energy to keep going for longer, but also helps build immunity because of presence of vitamin C. Next, please. Antifungal, I spoke about, the fungal infections in the body. Again, lots of these products, as you see, are preventive products, which actually, because you can self-treat and take care of yourself, you actually don't need to go to the doctor. And that also hence brings down the cost. And even if you go to the doctor, you actually cured some bit of it as a part of having a strong immunity or as a part of using these right products. So what I'm here to propose is a public-private partnership with the government of Peru. We are very confident. We have actually done work with government in India as well. We have worked with Karnataka government, worked with Goa government, where we've actually gone in Goa, for example. We have gone to communities, and we've actually put up this mission of trying to make Goa smoke free. which involves, whatever it takes, going to healthcare professionals, working closely with them, training healthcare professionals, going to consumers, training the right stakeholders to actually be able to administer and provide the right solution for the consumers, etc., etc. So in a nutshell, what I'm saying is that it's not about approaching this discussion as a vendor. Last slide, Gaurav, please. Please stay on the last slide. It's not about approaching this as a vendor, but as a partner, where we actually identify the needs, we identify what is needed, and products is just a solution. There is a lot of work that gets done before we come to the product, and we would be very happy to join hands and put together a mechanism where we can actually measure the difference that we can make together to community. I believe from what I've heard today, the two countries are very similar. The challenges are very similar, and there is so much that can be done together. So that's it from my side. Happy to take any questions now or later, but I look forward to making a real difference to consumers in this lovely country of Peru. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shivam. Thank you,
Thanks.
Charudatta. It's
Yeah,
been
and
fantastic.
Rohit, we
Yeah.
just need to manage with little
Yeah.
time.
5
So
minutes.
we
Yeah,
only
no
have
problem.
this.
So it's basically Vikas Malhotra who's going to give some update on the Peruvian pharmaceuticals. After that, we have Sandro who's going to give a medical devices. Yeah. So we'll keep it short and quick. Yeah, Vikas, your turn, please.
Hi, good evening all in India, all the panelists. Thank you very much to ambassadors, Sir Kurke, as well as Mr. Ambassador Subbarayalu. Thank you, Mr. Rao, as well as welcome to other panelists. Muy buenos días, señores, in Peru. Well, I'll be taking you quickly through the journey. Well, talking a bit more about me, I'm Vikas. I represent Medrock Corporation. I work as a current operating officer as well as general manager to Medrock, and we are among the top fifth manufacturer of Peru, supplying to almost more than 657 products to Peruvian market with very strong presence and maintaining our number one position in terms of quality in last over 10 years period. Okay, so I'll be taking you through a quick data, what we have recently got, or we have recently worked with Close-Up Analyzer and with Simply Healthcare. Peruvian market, we are already aware about it. How exactly is the market? How big is the market? Which are the challenges, etc. But now the COVID-19 has put forward some specific interest to the global pharmaceutical sector as well as the national sector. How exactly it is going to be? Next slide, please. Next slide. Thank you. Now, how exactly the COVID had responded in terms of the major countries in Latin America? For example, talking about the socio-economic environment, it has been clearly evidently seen that there has been a hit on the GDP levels pre-COVID as well as post-COVID. Everything has gone red during the COVID times, and this red is going to get sustained at least for a couple of months, or probably for the recovery, it may take years. Now, talking about the inflation rates, definitely there were two countries which are hit badly in terms of Latin America, whereas Peru was able to actually bring down the inflation rates. Now, talking about the unemployment rates, definitely it has hit badly almost every country in Latin America, whereas the numbers are extremely extrapolating. At the same time, I would definitely mention that even the biggest economies of the world, like US, are not been away from this particular unemployment issues, probably which is going to continue, and how long the economies can recover back. Next slide, please. Now, talking about the pharma sector, how exactly, now we are talking about this particular survey in terms of millions of units sold, how exactly the MAC numbers were there, monthly and annual turnover. So we could get the data of April 2019 and April 2020. Definitely there was a shoot up in demand in terms of units and up till March. Why? Because of the panic purchase, because of the market was going into a lockdown, Europe was into lockdown, US was into lockdown. So the market started purchasing a lot into chronic therapies or the COVID related products. But eventually in the month of April, the demand levels came down. Why? Because of lockdown effects, because of quarantine effects, and so on and so forth. So definitely the markets were not registering the growth, and this growth is not going to get pertinent, at least in the coming months, for so on and forth. So. Next slide, please. Now, talking more on the unit sales. Let's say talking about March. How exactly is the, I'm showing you a bit more of specific numbers just to give an idea how exactly is the market behaviors going on pre-COVID as well as post-COVID time. Where exactly is market heading? How exactly is it is getting impacted, and what are the new opportunities which are going across? Now, out of some couple of countries, what I'm mentioning here, there was only Brazil which could sustain the growth, because in the month of March, every country practically had a very high demand, the panic purchase pattern, right? Related to COVID, hypertension, or the acute chronic therapies. But after, during COVID or post-COVID, or let's say, Brazil is the only country which has been still maintaining the growth patterns above the line, if you compare it with the last year, 2019. Now, in terms of any other, every other country, whether it is Chile, whether it is Colombia, whether it is Peru, the growth patterns are extremely low, and they are likely to get sustained at least for a couple of months from now. Next, please. Now, which exactly were the active therapeutic categories when in terms of high growth? Now, let's say, now the slide gets a bit distorted, I don't know why, but anyways, on the left side of the slide, we have been saying which exactly were always the acute therapeutic categories, which were always emerging, which were always on top, talking about pediatrics, talking about the acute therapies like hypertension, etc. I'm sorry, I don't know why the slide is getting a bit distorted. But anyways, coming to the middle side, how exactly was the behavior in March 2020, and how exactly the segments are behaving in April 2020. It's very interesting to see that now COVID has impacted multiple segments where the people or the healthcare sector is not via retail purchases or via clinical purchases or via prescription purchases into a couple of segments. And the segments are getting a bit more confined to a couple of categories. For example, acute therapies or chronic therapies always gained ahead. Hypertensive cases, diabetes cases, or the directly labeled COVID products. They gained a lot of leverage talking about in this segment. For example, recently, Mr. Puri was mentioned about the different solutions into the healthcare, talking about the respiratory health. This one is the segment which has gained the maximum percentage growth during last 4 to 5 months. And this growth has educated actually the market to continue and sustain the growth in the future. Next, please. Now, this is actually a bit more interesting. Well, again, the slide is a bit disrupted. Well, anyways, on the left side, we can see which were the total molecules which were always been on the top side in terms of Latin America, and how exactly these markets have been behaving, or these molecules, top 20 molecules have been behaving during March as well as April 2020. If you compare it with the last year, with the same period of MAT, there are multiple molecules. For example, vitamin C's, for example, the direct label products for COVID, they have seen tremendous growths, 150%, 200%, 300%. Whereas there are a couple of molecules or couple of therapeutic segments which has actually gone down. Now, probably the pattern is going to continue, or the pattern is going to summarize, getting better. We have to look forward to it. But currently, the market is more spending, or the demand is more towards the COVID-related segments, or the new word has come out, comorbidities. So those segments definitely are into a growth phase. Next slide, please.
Vikas, 2 minutes for you.
Yeah, sure. Now, again, this is basically a comparison how exactly the OTC segment was there. In OTC segment, definitely the related products to like alcohol or the sanitization products, they gained a growth of more than 20,000%, whereas the direct label products like chloroquine, hydroxychloroquine definitely got a thing. Now, which were the medical specialties which gained the momentum? It was always the general practitioners and the general medicine. Now, the trend is going to sustain. In terms of, again, the comorbidity cases, for example, cardiology or endocrinology, they have seen a very high input of patients. For example, in terms of cardiology, they have seen almost double patients, because patients are getting a bit more cautious because of this comorbidity issues. Next, please. Now, talking a bit more about Peru. Almost among 33 million population, what we have in Peru, the distribution of population is extremely well between men as well as women, whereas 84% of the population, as per 2017 Ministry of Health data, is absolutely insured. Out of that, if you see the division, next slide, please. Now, this is how the population, basically among the 84% which have been insured, around about 26%, 26 million, 45% of the patient actually has used the facility. How they have used, the percentages have been quite well shown, like Mensa, pharmacies, or the functional form, and into the other sectors. Next, please. Now, this is something which is more important. The gist of everything what I have been talking is here. How exactly the market is behaving. Currently, the market has been extrapolated in the year of 2019 was $2.3 billion, including the participation from the government side. Look at the left side. How exactly the units are been commercialized. that generic actually consumes 46% in terms of unit sales, whereas if you talk about like generic with the branded name, like local manufacturers, if you see on the right side, these are the value of sales. Now, I would like to focus more on the orange color, the generics. In terms of unit, it consumes 23% of the total market. But in terms of value, it is just 6%. This is a big opportunity where the government has started working very much parallelly. They have recently launched the lay of Canadico. So let's say the generic law where they have posed up 32 particular molecules that every pharmacy has to sell only particular molecule because they want to bring down the price of medicines in Peru, which is extremely expensive. Peru sells medicines very expensive. Now, India can contribute to this particular segment because this particular 6%, if you start including the shares of almost 94% of branded generics, could be a big market because people want best medicines. Next, please.
Vikas, thank you. Any more?
Yeah, the last slides. Again, how exactly this particular sales distribution has been divided. In terms of value on the right side, it's been quite evident. Like always, the private sector is going to be the key in terms of healthcare sector. So this is where India should participate because Indian companies were more focused because we also represent a couple of Indian companies and have been connected. They represent more into the government tenders. Government tenders are important, but the execution of government tenders is much more weaker. Private segment has always been taken care by the national companies as well as importers. This is where exactly I see a big area to work with India and Peru. Last but not the least, just a happy slide to show that recently Mr. Ambassador mentioned, last please, yeah. India, although we participate to just 7 to 8% of Peruvian imports in terms of medicines, but look at the number of registration. These are the real data from October 2017. Until now, we maintain the number one position in terms of number of products registered in Peru, 8%, 9%. But in terms, we are comparing with all the countries, but in terms of imports, our total participation in Peruvian import is just 7%. So we have a big opportunity, guys. Thank you so much to everyone. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Vikas. Thank you very much. I'd like to give some time for Mr. Charu Datta of CIPLA to give a small brief on what is his idea about public policy for CIPLA healthcare, please. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Rao. Quickly, I'll not take much of your time. How do we implement the programs that you thought of, and how do we help the Peruvian government to take up issues in infection control? So we have conceived of a program, you can call it a national program for Peru. It could be for a few provinces as a pilot, or it could be across the country, where we could look at healthcare workers being protected. So how do we protect their health and reduce their vulnerabilities in these times, and have an infection control program? So it's essentially on the lines of WHO and other bilateral, multilateral programs, where we are looking at their training and also looking at implementation of a program with the help of the healthcare workers and the ministry. So I would request Mr. Rao and Mr. Reveza to suggest how do we take this forward with the help of our embassy there, and also the help of our embassy here. That's one. Second, to make all this happen, how do we quicken the process of registration and the other approvals that are required for the exchange of products and ideas? So how do we do that fast? So these are the two things that we need to work on as the next steps of this wonderful roundtable or program that we are having today evening. So we need to identify the next steps. It'd be a great help if you could identify how to do and how to go about this. Thank you.
We'll definitely do that. We'll be in touch with you very soon. Yeah. Thank you very much. Okay, Sandro Stapleton, your turn ahead, please. I know we are a bit late, Sandro.
Okay.
Everybody's a bit late, so it's your turn. Go ahead, Sandro.
Don't worry. Do I have to share my, or Claudia is gonna put my presentation?
Here's your presentation. Yeah, Gaurav will help you with the presentation.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. First of all, thank you to FICCI, INCHAM, and Namaskar for the invitation. I don't want to extend too much. I'm the last one, so I'm gonna try to take 5 minutes of your time. Since 2000, next one, please. Since 2008, Peru has made significant progress in expanding healthcare infrastructure. Nonetheless, the country faces ongoing infrastructure limitations, a shortfall of doctors and other medical professionals, as well as persistent disparities in access and quality between rural and urban areas. that the gaps have partially filled for the private sector. As the Dr. Henry Rebasa said, we have a fractional healthcare system. As we see, we have 4 key players, no? The integral health insurance operated by the Ministry of Health, which is the largest insurance providers covering around 56% of the population. The social healthcare insurance, which covers the 35%, is this for people that work, that are in the formal economy. The armed forces and the policy has 5% of the population, and the private health insurance providers cover just 4%. Even though every part of these pieces of the healthcare sectors, these are the most important payers that have all the in charge of the insurance of the population. So that's why I try to explain this. The next one, please. I just give some highlights because we talked of this before, but I think it's important to understand that we were very behind in the coverage, and we have increased it we have increased it dramatically with the percentage of Peruvian with some form of health insurance. We were on 37% of coverage in 2004. Now we're in 95 in 2020. The other thing is that we can see we almost grow 4 times the national budget. We rose from $1.6 billion to $5.3 billion in 2020. So there is a big effort to cover all the population in Peru, but we are still behind the regional average. As you can see, we are in 5.5% in the gross domestic products, behind the regional average of 7.3%, no, in Latin America. The next one, please. Although health indicators suggest improvement in access to healthcare infrastructure, we still have inequalities. As you see in the slide, in the urban areas that are in the coast, more of them, Lima is the capital, and Arequipa is a very big city in the south of Peru. They have 1 doctor every 250 people, and if you go to the mountains and to the jungle in Amazonas and Huancavelica, you have 1 doctor every 1,700 people. So the difference is very big, and also the opportunity, because I know there is a lot of companies trying to sell telemedicine in our country. It's a big opportunity for that companies in our country. Also, something that goes with the hand with this is that according to the Peruvian Medical Federation, public hospital in the country require at least 18,000 more doctors, including an additional 15 medical specialists. So we're lacking of doctors. We're lack of doctors. We have 50,000 hospital beds in Peru. After COVID, we hope we are 60,000, more or less. But we also are still behind in comparing with the region. No? We have 16 hospital beds per 10,000 people. Brazil have 24 and Chile 21. The next one, please. The next slide, please. This is I think the central part and of this presentation. That is the opportunities that we have. No, the middle class is increasingly turning to the private sector. Even if it's a little sector, and we have just 4%, it's almost 2.1 million Peruvians. This is the sector that have more money, no, and it's that pay from the pocket. No, it's a big opportunity for to go to clinics, to go to insurance, and private business, right? The other thing is that Peru has one of the most sophisticated PPP, the public-private partnership frameworks in Latin America. Actually, this month, UK won the reconstruction with change. This is an opportunity of $7,000 billion investments in the next 2 years. There are going to be like 15 healthcare hospitals in this plan of coverage. So it's a great opportunity for everybody. The other thing to compare, when we talk a lot of cifra, with that we don't manufacture equipments in our country. So we almost import everything. If you have an industrial equipment, there's a big opportunity over there. Last year, we import 365 million worth of medical equipment. No, everything is important. The universal coverage, as we said before, almost everybody is now with coverage. We are talking now about the quality of that coverage that we need in our country. We're going to demand a diagnostic imaging equipment, including computed tomography scanners, robotic radio system, gamma knife. And to go more clearly, please, the next one. The government with this, the next one, please, the next slide. The next slide. The government declared some products that are critical for the hospital. So these products we need these products in the hospital. We have a resolution, and it's an obligation on every hospital to have this: secretion vacuum cleaner, multi-parameter, ventilator, oxygen concentrators, pulse oximeters, nasal cannula, respirators, masks. All these products must be in the hospital. So this is a big opportunity for people that manufacture this product also. That's all I have to say. So thank you very much for the opportunity, and thank for the patience.
Thank you, Sandro. Very well. Any questions questions for anybody, please? Or we are good with the questions? Gajendra, you want to add something, or should we close the chat?
Yes, actually, we are running late, but I think if because Mr. Panigrahi did raise a couple of points, so if Ambassador or Mr. Negretti, if they would want to put some light on that, and otherwise we are good for the day. Because we are running late, we have 2-3 questions,
I know.
yeah,
I know, yeah.
So I think for Mr. Panigrahi's point, if Ambassador would like to clarify something on those 2 points.
Mr. Ambassador, you're muted.
Yeah,
now,
I think now I'm audible, I suppose. Mr. Panigrahi, we are working very closely with the authorities in Peru, the HEMID and others. And certainly your registration, first I will explain about registration. I personally went and met the Director General who heads the regulatory body and discussed, conveyed our concerns, and they are very sympathetic, and of course they have certain constraints because there are certain procedures to be followed to complete the process, but they agreed to cooperate with us. So we will try, and please be in touch with the embassy here, and we will together coordinate with the government of Peru. Now, coming to the containment application and the package that you are proposing, if you can share the details with us, we will certainly forward them. Even if required, we will discuss with the concerned people here, concerned authorities here, and give them this very good offer that they might go through and get back to you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your response and the assurance. Thank you so much. I'll pick up the coordinates later, whom to contact.
Panigrahi, we will help you out with that. We will connect and we will give all the coordinates.
Yes, all the coordinates are there with them. So
yes, thank you.
So now, Rohitji, you may just conclude and give thanks to all, especially to our sponsors.
Yeah, thank you very much. Our sponsors have been very important in this part of the event, and I really thank all our panelists for taking their time. And as we see, there's a lot of opportunities for India, but India has to be dynamic. India has to be just not take the back seat, as CIPLA executives have just said. Let's be more dynamic. Apollo Hospital, I would request you to be more dynamic. There's a lot of opportunities to construct hospitals, to sell stuff, to give your systems. India has become very efficient in different health sector segments and systems. The Indian pharmaceutical today, I would really say that they're much more coming to Peru from India via Europe. because their data is not informed, because most of the Indian manufacturers sell to Europe and then Europe sells to Peru. So the amount is still much more than what they show, but still much more can be done. So let's be more dynamic. Peru can be a hub for you people to be a part of exporting to the Latin countries. Peru has got a lot of free trade agreements with many countries of the world. So all that will help the Indian sector a lot to work. And let's take it dynamically. Let's see, as INCHAM, we can also help you whatever you need on whatever sectors you need with the embassy. And together we can make things work. Thank you very much, and everybody have a good night and good day in Peru.
Thanks. And anyone who has a question, because I could see several hands raised and some questions coming in. So please share with us, and obviously we will pass it on to the concerned panelists, to embassy or to the concerned panelists. So please do share it us. Otherwise, actually the time we are really late. Otherwise, we would have taken. In fact, we would rather have an interactive session. That's the reason normally we would like to have lesser of presentations. But rest assured, we will take care of your questions and that would be responded.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ambassador.
Thank
And
you,
Manish, you
Ambassador.
would like to say something?
No, just thanks to everybody. I think it's too late to say more. Thank you, Ambassador.
Yes.
Thank you for
Thanks,
supporting us.
Welcome. Welcome.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much, and have a good day. Good evening. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Good.